Just a quick disclosure to share in conjunction with this podcast. Each of us are speaking to our personal experiences and do not consider ourselves experts and cannot offer medical, therapy, financial, or legal advice. We represent a wide range of experience on the autism spectrum and will always honor each perspective that is brought to our discussions. Our experiences, opinions, and perspectives are all unique and different and will be celebrated. Thank you so much for listening and connecting with us. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Navigating Adult Autism. We're just a bunch of moms with a bunch of opinions, a bunch of perspectives, and a lot of experience. And I am here tonight with Heather, Kara, Elizabeth, Tara, Dawn. Cynthia's not here. And we welcome back Lynn Neidick. She is our guest tonight. And our topic is going to be marriage. Marriage is a big topic. We had kind of a good time talking about marriage right before we turned the microphones on. So we're going to get into it. We're going to go around again and introduce ourselves again, even though I just did that. Tell of our name and how long we've been married and how many kids we have. And then we're going to jump into it because we do know that marriage is a very important topic in general, but even with a child with a disability, autism here can put unusual or stress on a marriage. Listen, some good stress too sometimes. So we're just going to get into it. So, all right, Elizabeth.
Okay, so I have been married 35 years to Darren, and we have 5 children.
Okay, first marriage and only marriage.
Yep.
Okay.
It's Kara here. Been married to my one and only husband, Roger, for 31 years, and I have one daughter, Kelsey.
This is Heather. I'm going to keep a straight face for all of it. So I'm married to Michael, my first and only marriage. We're about to be at 27 years, and we have one child, Zachary.
Okay.
And this is Tara. I'm on my 5th husband. I'm just kidding. I'm married to Jason, and we actually are celebrating our 25th in June.
Oh, perfect.
We're going to Scotland.
First and only marriage.
First and only marriage? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I've only married him 5 times. No, I'm just kidding. No, he's my first and only marriage, and I have 3 kids.
Okay, great. Lynn?
Yes, I'm married to my husband, Doug, and we've been married 21 years, and we have 2 children.
Okay. First and only marriage.
Yes.
Okay. Dawn?
And I'm a one-timer too. I'm married to Steve, and we have 2 children.
Okay. And I am Mary. My wonderful husband is Dean, and we will be married 37 years, I believe, in August. First and only marriage.
Let's just applaud ourselves.
Yes.
There you go.
And we have 1 child.
Good job, everyone.
We have 1 child. Most of us have 1 child, right? Let's talk about that for a little bit because we've kind of loosely discussed, I think, Heather.
3 of us, actually, and then with Cynthia, it'd be
And Cynthia's
4 of
not
us.
here tonight. We miss you, Cynthia. She also has 1 child, first and only marriage, I think. Yes.
Yes.
Which is, remarkable in itself. But we've kind of touched on with the 1 child, like Heather, you didn't really want to have any more, right? Because
it was a torturous, the problem is I'm a planner. And once I have kind of evidence and data in my head, then I can't make just this free floating, let's have a baby. I can't do that.
Right.
I did that when I had Zachary. But then we spent so much time the first 5 years I don't even remember the first 5 years. It was so hectic and people in my house 40 hours a week and whatnot. But I just remember us kind of lifting out of the fog every 5 years or so, or anytime we went to a funeral. That was always a trigger. And they're like, oh my gosh, we need, we planned to have more kids. Yes.
Right.
And the initial plan was to do that. But by the time we got out of the cloud and Zachary was in kindergarten, and then it was pretty obvious that he was going to need quite a bit of support even then. So we just couldn't.
And explain again in case we have new listeners listening about Zachary, how he's different than.
So Zachary just requires 24/7 care. He can't stay alone. I do all the same stuff I did for him when he was a child, baby.
Right.
help him with all that stuff. So,
A lot more hectic than us. I mean, that.
it's a full time. Yeah, I think too in that beginning stages, I was 25 when I had Zachary. We'd been married 4 years before we had a child, and I don't know. I think we were overwhelmed with how would we take care of more than him, and could we do it financially, and just other decisions. And so I guess we were just too practical. That's what my mom would say.
Okay.
We were too practical.
Oh.
You should have just, and I'm like, I'm just not a fly by my seat of the pants kind of, I didn't say that right, but you know what I mean? That's just not my nature. So, but I will say that we went to counseling and stuff over that because it was emotional.
Right.
You know what I mean? And even, I'm not even kidding you, 2 weeks ago, because we've had a lot of people lose people. And it comes up every time. Michael's like, well, let's just do it. I'm like, I'm almost 50. Like, the train has left the station, bud. Like, we are definitely not. If we weren't going to have a kid when I was 38, we're definitely not going to have a kid when I'm almost 49. Right. So, but you do have to deal with those decisions. Sometimes I wish we had been a little more, just loosey-goosey and let's just do it and see. But Zachary doesn't like babies. So I couldn't imagine bringing a baby into the house with him. I mean, I don't think we could have survived it. That's pretty constant fear for him still. Mm-hmm. So that's my baby. That's my second baby discussion.
Yeah. Makes you wonder. Yeah. I think with myself, I was 29 when I had our son and always planned to have more kids. And then when he was 2.5 and 3, I knew something wasn't quite right and what's happening. And I'm a planner too. Yeah. I thought, well, I've got to fix this problem before I have any more children. I mean, what in the world, Yeah. And then the statistics are coming out that if you have a child on the spectrum, your chances of having one are even higher. And I thought, oh my land, like I can't imagine doing this again. Yeah. But, I'm also was young, even though I'm in my 30, early 30s. That's still young. I don't think I was mature enough or going through something that maybe I should have gone to therapy. I don't know. But I was just baffled and I wanted to fix this problem. And my husband was on board with fixing the problem. And no, we don't need to have kids right now, but we will before I'm 40 and we'll go for it. And we just never did. Well, then I started trying close to 40 and nothing ever happened. In turn, I had a thyroid problem. So I don't know if that was part of the issue. I mean, looking back, I read, I didn't know much, or they didn't know much then, if that was the issue. But I remember just being really scared. Like, I cannot have another child, or wonder if he's lower, and what am I going to do, and how I'm stressed already to the max. Like, how am I going to handle this? And yeah, that probably did pour over into my marriage and stressed my husband out, stressed us out. But we just kept, we were fixers. We all kind of have talked about that in other podcasts, how we jumped in and filled the gap and tried to fix it and do this and what do I need to do now? And there was just a lot of that for many, many years.
Us too. There was a lot of scared, we've discussed in the past, Kelsey has mild cerebral palsy, so she was born premature. Mm-hmm. And then later on, she was diagnosed with autism. But, we were then, at that time, we were looking at, her diagnosis CP. We were in lots of therapies, lots of expenses. Mm-hmm. Now, my husband gave me a deadline. We had Kelsey early. I had her, I think it was, I had her at 2021, I guess. And so Roger was the last out of 9 kids, and he didn't want, his mom, I think, was 40, 41 when they had him. And he didn't want a kid at 60 years old. He wanted to enjoy the empty nesting. So he gave me a deadline. He goes, we need to have another kid by 30 or we're not having any more. 30 years old. So 30 come creeping up. Well, I'm busy taking her to therapies every day. And 30 come up and I go, we had a higher statistic, again, with cerebral palsy, abruption of the placenta. You have a higher chance of having another child, abruption of the placenta. And I was like, I don't know if I can deal with another kid with special needs. Again, the same thing as you guys, being nervous. And so 30 went by and we had no more babies.
Right. Yeah, and looking back, I'm like, gosh, I wish I wasn't so, I wish I didn't think like that. I wish I would have looked into it more. But then again, if it was my thyroid or whatever happened, no one knew. No one told me how to, sometimes I think I'm hard on myself thinking I should have all the answers. And I didn't. But do I regret it? I do. I wish I had more kids, but at the time I I needed to fix this problem, and I need to plan on what our life was going to look like going forward with a child like this. So
the Ruthmans decided to have a second child. Basically, it's Steve's urging. It wasn't mine because I had JR at 36. So I got married late, started having kids late. And so by the time he's 3, he doesn't have a formal diagnosis, but the red flags are going, something's wrong. Steve wants another child, and I'm just, so it just happened. And
How did it happen?
The stork and the fairy.
Okay, this is some of the discussions we were talking about before.
You're trying to embarrass me. Yes, it was a romantic evening.
In the closet?
No, we didn't have to get away from JR that much. He went to bed and got his. So I get pregnant with Zara, and because now I'm 39, and they treated me high risk pregnancy the first time around, and the second time around too, and I am failing the fetal protein test, and so they're worried about Down syndrome. So I decided, you know what, if I'm going to have, and we weren't totally clued into JR's needs, and it's like, if I have a Down syndrome child too, I risked the amnio because I needed to know. It's, if that's the path, fine, but I'd rather know now so that I can start planning. And it turned out, nothing was wrong. Zara seems to be, in all respects, a neurotypical young lady. And the bad thing about, bad parenting, I haven't sat down with Zara to have the discussion on, how involved are you going to be in JR's life? But I accidentally read some things that she had written, and she's heard me say what I just told you. And so it was like, oh, my mom didn't want me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, no, isn't that it? As it turned out, Zara was one of the best things that JR could have had. Mm-hmm. She was a communicator, and even now sometimes there are times where I don't get JR, and Zara will come and tell me okay, yeah, that makes sense. Zara can avoid some of his triggers where his mother, just seem to plow down the same path all the time and set those triggers off, So Zara's been a blessing for JR, and I don't know what the future holds, and how involved she's going to be. Right now, she's not very involved.
You can put it in writing at the attorney's office and make it happen.
From the grave, Zara, you will. Right now they coexist in different places in the house. They will interact, and I probably need to get some more strategies to encourage, that interaction. But
anyway. Steve was glad that you had another child, and
yeah. And so, it worked out for us.
Oh, good. Well, you jumped in. You weren't hesitant. You just were. That's why you did the amnio.
Yeah.
To see what was going on.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, Elizabeth. Or Lynn? Anybody?
Well, people probably wonder why we have 5 kids.
We know why.
Oh, that's right.
We know why.
Thank you, Lynn, for reminding me. What's interesting, what did come right to my mind was that was some of the discussion. One of the things that we were going to talk about was, family and distant family and their perceptions and their feelings. I know at one point we had a kind of a distant relative. He was on my husband's side. He said, if you knew you had one child with such a diagnosis, and why did you keep having children? And that was very, very hurtful at that time, because he just thought that we were selfish for having more. But so when we had our first, by the time we really realized things were going on, I was already pregnant with our second. So that was just a given. They're 2.5 years apart. And then, the supports were there. That first daughter was doing really good. And so the next 2 are, they're like, it's really interesting because where their birthdays fall, they're like 5 years apart, but they're only 3 years apart in school because early in, just where they, November and an August birthday. And so, so then we had 2 more girls and they were doing really good. So, time went on and we thought, well, we got 3 girls. Maybe we'll get a boy. And we did. And so, then he was born and he had lots of complications. He was in the newborn ICU. And so we were pretty well decided that we were, that we weren't going to have any more. And I mean, I gave away every piece of maternity, everything. But we got a little surprised. And
Number 5.
Yeah, so that's how that happened. So, yeah, and it's, and I know we'll have a podcast on siblings. So there's a lot of dynamics to talk about there. But that's how we ended up with 5. And it was interesting because, our oldest has done so well with the supports. There's a lot of pressure on me to be able to do that with the boys. And it didn't turn out that way. They're amazing young men, but their needs are pretty significant.
Right. Lynn?
Well, I too got married when I was older, therefore started having children when I was older. And my children are only 18 months apart. And I'm not sure we really planned that. Like, okay, I know I'm older, so let's just stick them out.
Get on with it, yeah.
But it just kind of worked that way. But I'm not sure, just listening to the rest of you with only children, if I would have had, my first child would have had Down syndrome, I'm not sure that we would have had more. I was at high risk just because of my age. I think I was 32 when I had him. And so, but went to all of the maternity specialists and they did all the tests every week. And every week they would say, you have 30% less chance of having a child with a disability. And so things were just going normal with the pregnancy. And they didn't catch it. And they felt really bad because these are the specialists in Columbia. I lived in Sedalia at the time when Jack was born. And so I think they thought better of themselves, like they should have caught it that he had Down syndrome. But I chose not to do the amniocentesis because it wouldn't have mattered with our decision. We wanted to have the full term pregnancy. So, but surprise, he ended up having Down syndrome, and they were just like, "What? We missed that. I'm so sorry." And they were so apologetic, and I was like, "It's okay, it's what it is. It's no big deal." But I think that it's definitely changed our marriage. We, in some ways, it's brought us together in that we are a very strong team. I mean, we cover each other. You don't even have to say anything. If my son has significant disabilities and is nonverbal, and you just know that somebody's watching him at all times, and it's like, I can just imagine being a fly on the wall and watching almost a dance, especially if you're in an event or something, because we just read each other and we read Jack and it's just all kind of works. So it's been really great that way. My daughter has gone off to college and I personally am missing that empty nest time and knowing that it's not going to come ever. And that's sad.
Yeah. We talked about that on a prior podcast about milestones and how, I don't know if you listened to that one or not. Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah. Just about how we grieve different milestones in different ways. So yeah, it is.
But that's part of the marriage part.
Yes.
And that is, I mean, because when we haven't really asked it yet, but,
you can go. The first one?
Yeah.
Would you like?
You can read it if you want.
I'm going to read a question and Heather's going to answer it first.
She wants some structure.
Heather.
Okay, I'm going to hold on.
So we were talking about how has having a special needs child impacted your marriage dynamics, both positively and negatively.
Okay.
So proceed.
So I'm just thinking, this is the only answer I could get. This is the only question I could get Michael to answer. So I just want to share because I knew his perspective might be a little bit different, but and then following up with the empty nest thing. So for us in the beginning, our first 10 years of marriage was hard. I wouldn't say it was, I didn't think marriage was going to be this princess prince situation. I knew it was just real life stuff. So thank goodness for that outlook that I had. Not sure how I got that, but anyway. I would say finances, because we were young and we had professional jobs, but at $7 an hour, you can't pay for 40 hours of ABA therapy, and insurance did not cover autism at that time. We all had to go to the Capitol and everything to get that passed. So that was an added stressor, I think, in the marriage that we just did not need, because it was kind of the only thing we fought about, which I know is a normal thing to fight about with money, but not specific. It's different. It's not like we're going on vacations and we spent too much, money. It's like we need money to get this so we can, as the doctors said, you got to do it now, and then you can do it now. And the kindergarten, he'll be in a regular classroom and everything will be great. So there was a tremendous amount of pressure.
Absolutely.
So that caused friction. And then I think men and women a lot of times process the diagnosis way differently. And so I will say to your comment too, Lynn, is that we do now work as a team, but we have our definite areas of responsibility. I am the main caregiver. I've always been the main caregiver. That's never going to change.
This might, if you don't have to answer, do any of us resent our significant others because of that we feel that maybe they should be more involved?
Well, so I would say this. I think from an external people who are not in this little marriage of Michael and I's, that they think I should resent it for sure. I've had lots of comments. Well, he should be
doing more. He should be more active.
What they don't understand is it's a divide and conquer kind of situation, and he can't handle. I'm really well equipped to be a lifelong caregiver for the most part. I have mental health things I do. I don't need like a ton of social interaction. I can be pretty happy, just
scrapbooking away,
doing whatever. You know what I mean? Like I need time out and about, but I don't need a ton of whatever. And I worked full time, so I had interactions with coworkers and lunches with coworkers and different things like that.
Which is kind of your break when you worked,
right? Yeah. Yes. So I never expected. I think we know each other's capacity, and in this regard, at least for our marriage, Michael can handle a lot of the, major keeping the family afloat situation, and that's a full-time job. So if he can do that while I kind of run the ship that is Zachary, that's how it's worked best for us. And I know that he's a super tough guy, but I'm just saying that he can't go 48 hours of it's just not in his
wheelhouse
thing. He would do it if he had to. Like, tonight when I'm recording a podcast, he's doing it, but Zachary's still asking for mama, a lot too. So I just think I've never been upset with him. There are times I would like to be able to go on occasion and do something with a friend. I think I've been to one concert, like with a friend this past summer, with like 3 ladies out of town. I've never done that before. So I just don't, those things are just not something I can do. And so what that brings me to this empty nest thing that people have. And that's something that so now it's like we're in a whole new age of our marriage where now I've retired and Zachary is
You've retired early.
I retired early.
Yes.
And so now, and I'm now even more secluded, isolated, because I don't have any work. I don't have any whatever. And like, there's been lots of things, even in the last month, I couldn't attend because I didn't have coverage. Like, I couldn't attend with Michael that I might do ordinarily because I didn't have coverage. But I think we work really well with that. I think we're judged a little bit sometimes.
How so?
Just them thinking that it's all me and
that he doesn't do enough.
Right. It's like they don't even know the stuff he's doing, and they don't know the commitment and the this is a lifelong, like this ain't ending anytime soon. So we have to do what works best for us. So to me, if the kid is healthy and happy and and the parents are working hard in whatever aspect that is. If he's making money so I can stay home or whatever.
Right.
And there's been certain projects that Michael's, been in charge of, so through the years. And he has a very affectionate relationship with Zachary, but that doesn't mean, I don't know, we're just a very, I guess, traditionally segmented married couple.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. I'm a traditionalist pretty much too. If you want to stay out of the kitchen and not mess with my stuff, that'd be great. So, I mean, we just work well with that. I don't expect him to do half the chores, or that's just kind of lunacy for us. It's not how life works. So, glad for people that are young and awesome and do that.
Well, I think that's a great thing for people to understand, that you define your own marriage.
Every marriage
Yeah,
is different.
every
Yes.
marriage is going to be different. I mean, like Jason had to travel to pay for ABA. So, I mean, you do what you have to do.
He's just as committed to Zion doing that as you were being home with him.
Yeah.
And that's my point.
And I had to stay home because I got called every day to come pick him up. I was like, I might as well just stay home. But I felt that pressure because I was the stay-at-home mom, that I felt the pressure that I had to do. Like, I was very regulated with my floor time therapy. I had it scheduled, because we didn't have the money to pay for ABA and floor time. And, you, as the mom, I know Dawn has talked about this a lot, doing her own ABA.
Poor man's version.
Yeah, the poor man's version of ABA.
I did that too.
Yeah, you train yourself. And I mean, the only way we had ABA was knowing Heather and her workers. That's what Zion called it. So,
Our workers.
my worker. But yeah, it's just like you do what you have to do. And it was hard to be okay with people judging, that I'm not in the workforce, or, because you have a college degree, you should be,
Right.
you're wasting your money, or whatever. But I mean, my joy was being a stay-at-home mom anyways. And I had to do it anyways to make everything go together, make the systems work. So,
Well, and sometimes when two parents are working anyway, sometimes it doesn't work at all that way. Even though society tells you should be out working, your home could be falling apart because everyone's working so much and no one's really with the kids, so.
And the emotional part, at least for us, the acceptance part, I mean, I don't know if I accepted or what, but I just know I got the letter the day after, and it was just 1,000% rolling the train after that. I didn't have the diagnosis so that we could start moving. Okay. So I went in instant, just panic mode, whatever you want to call it, doing all that stuff. And then Michael was probably more, he's very sensitive. You wouldn't know that necessarily. His coworkers would love to know this. Maybe they should listen in. Anyway, but I think it just took him a lot longer. I don't think he was ready to deal with all this hootenanny business that goes on. Like, he could not have sat through those assessments and evaluations that I sat through. No way. No. I mean, and I cried and bawled my eyes out afterward of each one too. When the only thing your kid can do is turn a page on a book and they've failed the rest of the test. It was, I don't know, just a depressing time at that point because you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel
just a constant
quite yet.
slap in the face. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it just worked out how it was supposed to work. And like I say, the last 15 years are like we've always been pretty goal oriented with Zachary together. We've always agreed. We've never disagreed on what to do or how to do it. It's just who's going to do it. And it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's well said.
Yeah.
That's well said. Yes. I feel, go ahead, Elizabeth, were you going to go? Or no? The first question about Dawn or Elizabeth, anyone, how has having a special needs child impacted your marriage, both positively and negatively?
Yeah, it definitely impacts. There's no doubt about that. I think I have a load-bearing marriage. My son isn't a burden. Autism can be.
Yeah.
Let the wheels
podcast we need to talk. That's right.
But it's an autism moment. I need a bit of processing time. There's nothing ideal about my marriage. I mean, if I was being honest, Steve and I are so different. And you probably, if you knew the full picture, you're going, how does this work? And so
I love you, Dawn.
so
I know. I do.
when you posted that you and Michael went over some of the, the potential questions for this evening, I'm trying to, and like I said, the timing was bad. By the time I knew what the questions were and that, and he's walking away. And so finally I said, okay, Steve, here's what I'm going to say about our marriage. I'm going to say that our deficits, and both of us seem to have pretty extreme differences and what I would say deficits, but they counterbalance each other. So like a seesaw, maybe we can be stable. He's been there. He hasn't left, for which I'm grateful. And I think we all know families who have fallen apart under that load.
Yeah.
That there's still argument over the statistics on whether or not, a special needs child adds more stress to a marriage. But
Yeah, the statistics were 76 to 80% of marriages end in divorce if you have a child with a disability. However, John Hopkins did not agree with that and said because marriages fail so much nowadays, 50%, that it's all the same. Like people with marriages with people with disabilities, children with disabilities are just the same as marriages with children without disabilities. Like the rates are the same because divorce is so high, which is a shame as well. So, but when you're going through it, it doesn't seem like that. It seems like it's a lot more stressful. I think. But go ahead.
And I think because Steve's parents' marriage fell apart, he has a commitment to marriage. That. And I think he would feel extremely guilty if he left me. I pulled out an...
Lay on the guilt trip, Dawn.
Yeah. John, would you feel guilty if you left Steve?
I pulled out an old
Maybe
article.
not.
She's not saying anything.
It's funny.
Oh, gosh. Funny,
no, do you have an autism gossip there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is from way back in 2006. And I remember this Town and Country article I really adore.
Kind of impressed you with Town and Country magazine.
From 2006?
From 2006.
That's been like 20 years ago.
It is.
Okay.
Autism Angels. So talking about the rights and how the Mind Institute and one of the families involved in the formation of the Mind Institute, and I just love this, and I'm going to read it.
Okay.
At night, their son would lie on the floor and roll around like a fish out of water and just scream. And we'd sit there and watch, what do we do? And they said they would sleep in shifts, 1 to 2 hours at a time. Sometimes it was so stressful, we'd both stay up because we didn't want to leave the other one alone. And I remembered that quote. And so in preparing that, I want to find that. And so in that regards, just not wanting to leave the other person alone.
Yeah. Right.
And staying and sort of cementing in together to bear that difference.
Right. I think that's what I'm talking about. We are cemented. We cry and we laugh together often.
Right.
And Michael and I know that no one else, grandma, grandpa, neighbor, cousin, they do not know what our life's about. The only people that really know are the three of us in that house. And we don't want to let that go. I mean, that's what it is. We laugh about stuff. And then, like I said, maybe I didn't say this before, but we have an unhealthy focus on death and the end and us dying and what's going to happen. And we try to work through that together. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff. I mean, it seems like it's not very fun, but we do. Zachary's sweet. Zachary's a sweetheart, and we just love him to pieces. Like there's nothing we wouldn't do for him. So, but the marriage, I just feel like it's solidified. Like Dawn said, it's like concrete. That either happens or
Or
it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you're exactly right.
At what point does it happen? Has it always been that way? For all of us? I mean, can we all agree that we're cemented?
I would say so. I would say Zion cemented us.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to work together.
To make the decisions. Now,
Yeah.
have there been decisions that you guys have disagreed on? And then how did you work through those?
Well, I give all credit to Jason for making this marriage work because he's just so laid back. I mean, I'm a mess. I really am a mess. And he's just such he's cool and collected. And also he traveled a lot. So he got a lot of alone time.
A lot of alone time.
Yeah.
Yes, my
But-
husband traveled a lot too.
But it just, nothing would phase him. It's like I would just come and say, I need time alone. And he would give me time alone.
Right.
He would, even like in the last 4 or 5 years, I'm like, I can't provide everything Zion needs in a friendship, in all the things that Zion needs. And I was like, I need you to step up and do something. And he said, okay, this is what I can do. I can come in after work and I'll play ping pong with him for an hour. And that just gives him, that's something that he enjoys to do with Zion. And he's always open to doing that and making that time for the kids. It's just, he had to discover what he could do. And now he's home all the time, so I can rely on, and he's like right across the lawn. His office is right across the lawn from our house. So I can get him to help me with anything. And I think it's just because we're best friends. He's my best friend.
Right.
I want to do everything with him. That includes, raising kids, even though they're really hard. I have 3 kids, so it was a little bit different because Hannah I call Hannah, his older sister, they're 15 months apart, his greatest therapist. We've said that to him about her for forever. And she even says that. I think she probably puts it on her resume. She probably has it on her resume that Zion learned how to talk because he was mimicking Hannah. And still today, Hannah's one of his best friends. And like what you said, only the 3 of you know what happens in your household.
Yeah.
The 5 of us knew only what happened in our household.
Yeah.
And Hannah is one person that I can rely on a lot. But yeah, Jason's my best friend. And I mean, that's grown over the years through everything we've gone through. When Zion would have a meltdown, we took the class, the safety restraint class together, and Hannah took it. We've always been a team.
That's good.
Team. That's what it,
Yep.
That's
Team
what it takes.
Holcomb.
Yeah.
Team Holcomb.
Yeah. Roger's always been there and always been, if he didn't get it, he would learn it. And, now there's been a few times I was like, no, you are going. He didn't like the fact that he'd have to go and do something and go to a class or go to Chicago to the Autism One conference. I'm like, nope, too bad you're going. And he went and he learned a lot about it. He's always been very supportive, always been there. I've been very, very lucky.
Yeah. Has there ever been a time where you've thought about divorce? Well, there was only one time that we talked about it.
We talked about divorce. That was the financial part of it.
Yeah.
When all these therapies were coming in and we're like, holy cow, how are we going to pay for this? And then insurance, then you have your deductibles, then you have your copays, then you're like, gosh, this is all adding up. And then we got it. I just thought, well, you know what? Kelsey and I can get on Medicaid if we divorced because we made too much money.
Yeah.
We made too much money to get the Medicaid to help for the support. So we even talked about it. Maybe we should divorce and we can still, like, you and I would know we would be married.
Right.
So don't go sneaking around on
Yeah.
In theory, you'd be married.
Yeah,
That's funny.
I just did the divorce paper, would be there, so that we could get the added services because we've heard families of doing that.
Yeah.
And we're like, gosh, for us to survive to get Kelsey what she needed. But then we just never really did that and pulled the plug. It's how we ever thought of. So we thought about that, the divorce there. We've had some arguments probably once a year. I don't know about you guys.
An annual argument.
Once we do a blowout.
It's June 24th.
with. About once a year, we have a blowout. Yeah. There was one time, I'll tell you. Okay. So, I'll tell you. Okay. So
Maybe you'll tell us about the makeup.
Oh, yeah. No. No more kids after that. No. Still only the one, Kelsey. We had gotten in an argument, and at the beginning, we fought about money quite a bit, and our finances. But then from here on out, we argued about Kelsey and parenting. That is so important. As a marriage, you have to co-parent and trying to get both of you on the same page. Well, I was the enforcer. He was an enabler. And so we had to somehow get together and make it work. And yeah, we had our arguments. We tried not to do it around Kelsey. So then we would go into the other room. It would get a little loud, back and forth. But we always tried to end on the same page, or tried to work it out. Now, getting back to the argument, we were living. We had just sold our house out at Willard, and we were getting ready to build a house. And so we're like, okay, so we bought a fifth wheel, and we lived in the fifth wheel for a while. Now, this is after Kelsey had already moved out. She already had a place on her own, and I don't even remember what we had argued about, but it had to do with Kelsey. And we got in an argument, and he had said something that really hurt my feelings. And he didn't mean it. It just came out in the moment. Well, we went to bed, and I woke up the next morning, and I needed to do some travel into Kansas City, one of the new lines that I was repping. I packed my bags, and I went to Kansas City. I shut my phone off. He couldn't contact me. He didn't even know where I was at. I just left and went to Kansas City for about 3 or 4 days. So I turned my phone on, and there was a bunch of voicemail messages. Where are you at? Are you coming home tonight? You didn't come home last night. So, and I have a tendency to do that. I kind of like to worry him a little bit. I want to teach him a lesson. He pissed me off.
Like paybacks are hell.
Yeah. It works for us.
Yeah.
Everyone defines their own marriage.
So after about 3 or 4 days, I came home. And I did tell him I was in Kansas City. Even I think after 2 days, I told him I was in Kansas City, and then came home and we had a discussion, and we made up. But like I said, that was about Kelsey, and we've had a lot of arguments about her and how we parent, but we always try to end up on the same page.
I want to clarify that because Jason will be listening to this. We've never talked about divorce, but there was a time where Jason wrote me a letter, and I don't think he would mind me sharing this, but he was like, why? This is how I'm going to express myself. And it blew me away because I had no idea he was feeling these feelings. And I was like, I am so involved in my child's life. I'm so busy with my children that I'm not concentrating at all on this marriage. And I'm going to start crying. But
kudos to him for writing a letter.
He wrote me. It broke my heart, though, because I had no idea he was feeling this way. And a lot of it was intimacy, like just showing me, men are their love language is physical, means. And I was busy and I'm tired.
Well, they need to feel appreciated.
I'm so tired. I'm always tired because Zion didn't sleep. He'd have night terrors. And it was just like, you just never had any time to yourself. But I had to call my parents and I said, I need you. I was like, can you come down and they live about an hour away. Can you just give us one date night? Can we have one night that you can come and just watch our kids? And I said, I don't know if we're going to last. I don't know if we could do this without help. I know that you guys are a team and you have a big family too, but
that was good, Tara.
They started coming every week and we had a date night. And
I just gave you two to go be your best friends.
Yeah.
Well, and that falls under that question of self-care and finding time. I mean, if I had any advice to give young parents, that's important.
Start it right away
and keep that. They call it date night now, and I'm really kind of tired of that term. Well, we had date night. Well, sorry, that's a sidebar. That has nothing to do with this conversation.
No, but sometimes we were just in a car and we just sat.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Like, just still find time to go, because I think, well, personally, and I've just read different articles about, my husband was working so much, 60 hours a week, and I was working full time. You just get caught up. You're just working and you're taking care of your child, and you don't trying to do everything in IEP meetings and this and that and therapies and this and meltdowns. And, I think it would have been better for us if we took that. We were active, though. We did stuff. I'm not trying to say we didn't. We did concerts, and my in-laws were huge support to give us a break. But I think that's really, really important. If I had any advice to give to younger parents, just please find your time together as a couple.
And we didn't do that. We should have. So no, we didn't. I would say the only time we did something was I think 3 years that Zachary went to Camp Barnabas. So we have, family around, and certainly, but usually
Camp Barnabas break was a good one then.
the Camp Barnabas was like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
we went to dinner every night.
Right.
Because
I didn't know. Oh, that's when we started having dinner together. When he went the first year, when he went to Camp Barnabas, I was like,
Zion,
Michael, let's go to dinner.
Zion was in the same cabin as Zachary 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I didn't know
I love to see those pictures. But that was the only time we had, because I think just functionally we didn't think about asking people just for fun. So if we had somebody watching Zachary, it was for a business Christmas party, or
Right.
it was some function that we needed to go to, but it was never just
Responsibility.
we just needed together time. But last year, this is literally, so Zachary is 21 last year, whatever. Michael he said, I've got a New Year's resolution. And I was like, oh, okay. Because usually I'm the one making lists and here's what we're going to do this year. You know what I mean? He's not usually turning in lists to me like, this is what we're doing. So he said the resolution. I was like, this is intriguing. What is your resolution? And he said, it's for us to go to dinner once a month. I'm going to take you to dinner once a month.
Good.
I was like, wow. I said, and I kind of giggled, and I was like, I'm not sure that's going to happen, but okay. It's a great idea. He missed, so last year, to count, I think we missed 4 months. That's still really good, because before we didn't go twice a year. And then he continued it on, because he was so nice. He was like, I know that when you retire, you're going to need these even more. Mm-hmm. Well, ladies, we've missed February already. And March is almost over, and it hasn't happened. So anyway, but I think that's a negative, probably. What was the word that we used? A challenge or whatever. Mm-hmm. That most people at this stage in their life, with their kids this age, right, are rediscovering each other, they say, or something like that. Yeah. And, they've got more time together, and they're doing all this stuff. So we have to be really intentional. It has to be a priority, and that's hard to do, because we're not really like, let's get dressed up and go somewhere. We're kind of homebodies a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, but that is something that we've done, because Zachary doesn't go to Camp Barnabas anymore.
I know.
We can't use that week as the time to go do something. And then my parents, no one's been, I think when, at least in Zachary's case, like total care kind of situation. So like he never spent the night with anybody, or because he'd have to do showers and bathroom and all that stuff. And it was just a little more complicated than just having the grandkids over. So, but my parents probably 3 years ago or so, maybe, just asked, hey, can you teach us? And we had a little training session. And so they'll take him like for a Saturday night to a Sunday, sometimes a Friday, but he's usually packing his stuff up on Saturday night because he wants to go home.
Right.
He's missing his parents. Oh. But they'll do that like 3 times a year.
That's good.
And that's good for him, too.
It's very good for him.
It's good for him, for sure. And they'll say, hey, we'd like to have him in March sometime. Tell us what weekend would be great for you. And then that's what we've tried to do. So
that's good.
I would say that's something you almost have to do, or
definitely make time for it. So
yeah.
Elizabeth, what do you think? Positively, negatively, how's your children?
We have 5 kids, and I always tell people after 2, they're staff. So, we always had that built-in piece.
Right.
But Well, as I was talking to my husband about this, he was very open and he said, put it out there, put it out there. I'm like, no, you don't want me to do that. It's not going to paint you in a good light. It's like, it's got to go. It's got to, he said everything about disability impacts us negatively. He didn't see a positive. Mm-hmm. And specifically like going out, he said, when we go out, we have that opportunity. We would go out every Friday night, the work weekend. But what do we talk about?
The kid.
What happened this week and what, and you're always checking to make sure. And, it's listening to everybody, and I know it's about team and, but we struggle. And I think part of it came because we kind of made it through the first one. I mean, she still struggles. Mm-hmm. We had to, the other daughters, and then we started again. Mm-hmm. And he couldn't handle it. He is still there and he is, it is what he can, but he says he wants me to take the lead and let him know what to do. And he's, he said, it's not fair. He always says it's not fair. And those kind of the verbiage and everything that comes from his perspective can be very harmful to our relationship. Mm. And to, we have been cemented. We are together. We, we still we have good times. We have great memories. Mm-hmm. But he struggles much, much more than I do with the whole situation and the feeling of, being neglected, being lonely, and really facing that reality too, that, we have girls and everybody thought, you've got all these girls are going to take care of the boys. No, they have their own lives. Mm-hmm. And we're setting things up so that's not, there can be overseers, but that's not the lives that they've chosen for themselves. And,
You mean like your husband thinks that your girls should take care of them?
No, other people.
Other people do.
But
because I do find that with a lot of parents that have multiple, they just assume they're older, they're typical kids. Oh, they'll take care of them. They're going to take care of them. And you're saying you don't really think that's
not fair.
That's not fair because it's not their
and
life, right?
Yeah, and they've, and I've recently found out they've been planning behind closed doors on how to make it happen, and what they could do. And I'm like, no, that we have a plan. Maybe we need to be a little more open with you. They can stay in this house. Staff can come in. Yes, you'll be guardians and care. Oversee their care. But I don't know, for him, I find joy in accomplishing things and the fulfilling of, the things that I do and work with my family and the boys, but he struggles and it's very impactful
still
every day. And rather than getting better, it's getting harder. But, we have, an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old that, the 21-year-old needs full care. And he just, the challenges are big, finances, not as much as when they were, younger and you're going through all that. Plus I work in resources and I know
right.
how to make things happen, but the sleep, that, the attention, the lack of attention.
Because your sleep is disrupted from seizures from your son, so you're constantly woken up. So
and that's and that's what he said. How is there any time to feel close when you're up late, putting one, helping make sure bedtime goes good, and then we've got monitors or we get a phone call that his bed alarm went off because he's out of bed. And then we've got, bells and whistles going off. And then I'm up at 6 a.m. to try to help one make sure he doesn't miss the bus because, there's part of that learning and, make him, learn that. But
do you want him to go to school?
Exactly. Who really, really suffers if he misses the bus? Yeah. It's everybody else in the household, It's like, oh, okay,
Do you guys think that your husbands would go get together like you all do and do dinner with husbands who understand what
We've talked about
Yeah.
having a dad's podcast.
We're gonna force them to take it.
Yeah,
on.
we've talked. I've told Roger. All the other dads have agreed to do it. You're the only one to make him feel guilty.
We tell all of our husbands that.
Yeah.
You're the only one who's not.
Because there could be some dads. There could be some dads listening, or there could be a lot of moms that are listening that can learn from the dads.
Yeah.
So we've talked about maybe doing that.
Because to
Getting
me,
together.
it's definitely not a fairy tale. There's nothing
No.
fairy tale-ish about it.
I think you guys have different. You know, the ones that have more profound autism.
Yes.
Totally different.
More difficult for sure. No question.
Different life. Than
No question.
We do.
And that's one of the things that Darren said. And he was like, I was telling you before, he said, it's a lonelier life than it should be.
So do you think
Well, I
Darren
agree
would
with
meet
that.
up with a few other dads? Do you think, he would be open to that?
Yeah.
Do you think any of our husbands would be
Darren
open?
loves to talk. So
Who does he? Tell us about your time, Elizabeth, with him,
Michael
with you guys
talking, maybe.
together alone. Do you find time for each other just to get away? Or
Oh yeah, we all the time because we have lots
Just you
of
two.
support. Not like trips or anything. He's been asking forever, to go, let's go to the beach, let's go do this. And I'm like, okay, well, we got to finish we got to finish this. We got to make sure this is in line because what if we get in a wreck? And he's like, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
But,
It's too much. It's too much.
I
of a-
know
I think you
families
need a
work.
weekend trip to the beach then.
Yeah.
I mean, something that,
like a Thursday through Sunday
Yeah.
or something.
and that's probably what even close family doesn't even understand. That when we say you don't have any time, I mean, we can sit on the couch from 9 to 10 and, Michael's eating dinner and because he's a late eater, golly. Like I ate 3 hours ago. But yeah, you can do those kinds of things, but there is no. I mean, you can't leave your kid alone for 10 minutes. There's always kind of things to be doing and monitoring. So you need a grandma and grandpa Smith that will once a quarter, like seriously, like because if you don't schedule it, it never happens. 10 years went by and we didn't ever do anything.
Right.
Well, I think Heather, you have a good point though. It has to be scheduled because now
It
that
has
we're
to be
talking
scheduled.
and regular because now that we're talking, yes, the girls set up and they all were in town, so they watched the boys and we went down to Branson and it was like, okay, this is awkward.
You and your husband,
Yeah,
just you and your
yeah,
husband for the day.
Yeah, no, we stayed
Spent the night.
the
Oh,
night
good. Yeah.
or two, but it was just like,
What
it was
do you do
it was
now?
it was kind of tense and because we didn't do it all the time. He was like, woohoo, we're getting away. And I'm like,
You don't know how to do it because you're out of practice.
Exactly.
You
And
do
that's-
have to
You don't know
talk
what that
yourself
feels like.
through it,
Yeah,
Elizabeth.
yeah,
Yes, because
yeah.
if you're the planner, I'm kind of a planner too. But I will say that, like we've been to now, I've like Googled what's 5 hours or less from here. Where could we go on a weekend where we spent just one night, maybe a day of travel, someplace we've never been? Can't take Zachary, because he just wouldn't handle that. So like Memphis, we've been to Nashville twice, and we really like that. But just someplace that you could go, but it does have to be like I plan it several months in advance, and I say, okay, Mom, do you think as long as everyone's healthy,
Right.
can he come to your house?
Right.
September 13th, so that we can plan it because the intention I can't say that word.
Okay.
You have to be intentional.
Intentionality.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome,
Maybe-
Heather.
I'm not well spoken, but it's like you haven't used that muscle, right? It's like you don't know what to do with yourself. And I agree. Like even when we went to Nashville at night, it's like, okay.
Mhm.
What are we talking about? But you have to.
I'm trying
take
so
little
hard,
practice.
and I'm trying so hard not to talk about the kids
Right,
Yeah,
right.
because
Yeah.
he's accused, says that's
No,
all.
yeah.
And I'm like, no, we don't.
Maybe you
can
need
find
to start
something
playing
else.
pickleball together.
There
Maybe
you go.
like an activity.
Yeah.
That
Oh, good idea.
so it's not like Jason and I just started playing pickleball.
That's a
Good
really
idea.
good idea. That's
Mhm.
a really good idea.
Or even if you go to a trail and just walk or something,
right,
or
right.
join a bowling league.
And I think, yeah. I mean, the point is, I think, our husbands need time, because we become the doer. And he said he wants me to lead, and he, when it comes to the kids and all these pieces, and wants me to let them know what to do. But yeah, in that plan, he wants his time, and at the end of the day,
He wants you.
yeah, Yeah, and it's hard. So I think listening to you others and how to nurture that. Yeah, and
Here's a question. I told you, ladies, I was going to ask it beforehand. Da-da-da-da. How do you maintain intimacy and connection with each other amidst the demands of caring for a special needs child?
You lock your door. I'm just kidding.
It's part of marriage.
This would be a totally different question for men and women.
yeah.
It would.
Totally different.
It definitely would. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because women are tired
Yeah, they are tired.
after doing just about everything.
I can tell you straight out what we did. And this is, I mean, it's
don't do
not
it
graphic or anything like that. What'd you say, Lynn?
It's a PG or R.
I will put a censor rating on this podcast now. It's just very easy. So
Here we go.
no,
We're going to talk about sex.
No. Well, whatever happens behind our bedroom doors is scheduled. You just have to say, even if you're not in the mood, it's going to happen twice a week, is what I had to do after that time. After that time, that Jason wrote me the letter, and I had broken his heart, because I also okay. So if you don't want to have sex, you also lose the intimacy of just like you're trying to avoid him. No, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to go to bed at a different time. I'm so tired. I'm going to study. I'm going to be reading a book. I'm going to be watching a movie when I know that he goes to bed at this time, just to avoid the sex.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because you don't want to initiate it.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want to always initiate it.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally, after we had that little thing where he felt so lonely, I was like, okay, we're going to have sex twice a week. Even if I don't feel like it, I'll get in the mood. And if you set your mind, that, okay, on Tuesdays, I have to have sex with my husband tonight. I'm sorry. I love him to death, but I'm tired. But this was back then. Now I'm better.
Yeah.
Now it's 3 times a week.
I hit my 40s. Late 40s. It's a whole new ball game. No, but no, if you start thinking about it early in the morning that, okay, I'm going to prep myself for sex.
Shave your legs.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but this is
It helps.
it does. It helps. And you go into the bedroom and you're not trying to avoid him. You're like, okay, it's a Monday.
Right.
It's a Friday or whatever. We're going to do it.
It's time.
Yeah.
Did Jason make any concessions for you on Tuesdays? I mean, that he brought you a cup of tea.
He didn't shave his legs. No, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, an act.
Jason is
Foreplay. Like doing things for you.
Jason is so kind.
Doing the
And
dishes.
Yes, he's so good about that. And we figured that out right away, that my love language is acts of service. Go and get this kid away from me, and I will give you sex tonight.
So he must do the dishes a lot then.
He does. He's actually really good about the
He
dishes.
may be doing them now.
What day is it today?
It's Thursday.
Oh no, I'm in the clear. No, I'm just kidding. He's gonna be so embarrassed. Oh my gosh. I'm not telling my mom about this podcast either. This episode.
But really, foundationally, what you're saying is, again, you
Plan.
have to, because
You have to schedule.
this is a world where the train never stops. So you're not going to ever
Right.
feel relaxed and peppy and ready to go. You're going to have to just put it on your schedule.
Well, I'm not saying that like if Zion had a big meltdown and we were both exhausted or something,
Yes, yeah.
we could push it off a day.
Right.
He's kind. He's not going to say, Tara, you have the flu and it's a Tuesday.
Right.
Come on.
You committed, so.
Yeah. You committed. We have a contract.
I always wanted to schedule with my husband, and he was way against that. He's
Really?
like, no way.
He went to spontaneity.
We do not want to do that. So
Yeah.
I just put it on myself to be intentional
Right.
and just
Yeah.
say, okay, well, if I'm
You
half
just
in the
don't
mood
tell them
today,
it's Tuesday.
then
If I'm half in the mood.
I better do it now, or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, I think just
Not
being
that it's-
intentional.
Not that it's always a chore. I mean,
Not at all.
it's just, we're so busy and we forget. We forget
Well,
about
it's
it.
just
That's
an
what it
energy
is.
level
Yeah.
that you. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think. It's just exhausting. It is I mean, it's wonderful and all that stuff. It really is to raise a kid with special needs, but it is all encompassing and exhausting. And if the mom is the one who's doing most of the paperwork and the phone calls and the schedules and the running, it is exhausting.
Mhm.
It's a full-time job in itself. So
To even get your mind in the mode of having
relaxed mode.
that intimacy to get into it, you're thinking in your head, oh, I've got to do this tomorrow.
Right.
I got to do that tomorrow. I've got it's
relaxing is not something I do well. I've heard people say from the outside I seem very calm. I'm not on the inside. Michael will tell you, it's like, for the love of God, just relax. My mom tells me that too. It's like, okay, Heather's got it all planned out.
But I also
I
think guys are different in that way. Like we have to relax and get in the mode, but they don't.
They
Right.
don't.
They,
Right.
they can be thinking of all the stuff, whether it's with
Yes.
their child with special needs or just what they have to do at work,
Right.
and it doesn't affect them. It is our issue.
Our natures are definitely different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well, Roger and I,
We can.
when Kelsey was at home,
You just tell Roger, we're going to do it right now. Whether you like it or not.
well, we, just finding time, and then where, well, of course you're in your bedroom, but then what if she comes knocking on the door? And yes, we had a door lock, but it's kind of funny is we had this big, huge master closet, and that's where we did it. It was quiet. It was dark. I
Safe.
like it dark.
It was safer.
Safer. And so it was so funny. So Kelsey, Mommy, and Daddy's going to go talk. Okay. So we'd go into the bedroom. We went and talked. Actually, a little talking. And then, after a few times, she goes, "You're going to go in there and talk again?"
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it's just finding the place, finding the time.
Yeah. Making it work, making the time.
Yep.
Yes, for each other. I think that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, maybe on to the next.
Next question.
I know we talked about maybe how to navigate, name of our podcast, navigate, the differences in parenting styles or approaches when it comes to meeting the needs of your child. So, I don't think we really talked much about the parenting styles.
I talked a little bit about Roger being the enabler and me being the enforcer, and trying to make that work within. What about you guys?
Well, I'm going to say with me, I'm a pessimist and the cup's always half empty. And my husband, the cup's always half full. So I think the balance, like you were talking about the team, I do feel like we're a team. I do think there was a space and time where we weren't, but I do think work was demanding on him a lot, and our son was growing and meltdowns were still happening and meetings and all that. And we just kind of missed each other here and there. But he is very much the positive thinker. And you don't all know my husband, but he's pretty funny. And so he does make me laugh every day. And I would say that's very helpful.
That's a huge thing. Laughing is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. He makes me laugh. Listen, he can really tick me off too. No question. But I think I'm like, I can go to him. Oh my God, like what happened? Oh my, this and that. He's like, okay, we'll handle it. Maybe like Jason a little bit. Like he kind of brings me down, or I have to like stress to him how important things are. But I'll say when I needed him, he was there. If Conrad's having a meltdown and I was crying about something, he'd be there in a snap, and really stepped up to the plate, with him. And especially a couple times where Conrad was sobbing and talking, and he would bring us into the living room, time for a meeting, and he was in management, so sometimes I felt like we were having a little work meeting. Sometimes he'd say, "Mary, just it's not your turn yet." And, and I would actually look at him and go, like, "What?" And make what are you talking about? But so I think we're pretty much on the same page. I mean, even like today, he called me on the way home. He picked up our son from work, and he said, "It's March Madness. I'm going to see if he wants to go out to lunch afterwards." And I said, "Okay." And so he called me on his way home, and I said, "Yeah." He said, okay, you know how he just suddenly tells us things that we have no idea about that he does? I said, yeah. He goes, well, he told me, he goes, I dropped him off his apartment. And I said, hey, have you gone to Bao Bao yet? It was just a Chinese place at Chesterfield Village. It's really good. He goes, yeah, I'm going to probably go there tomorrow night for dinner. He said, but I was there the other day, last Tuesday. I decided that it's Taco Tuesday for me. Every Tuesday's Taco Tuesday. He has tacos or burritos. He cooks himself. And he said, I decided to bring my Taco Tuesday up to the Bao Bao restaurant to them because, you know, they cook for me, so I should cook for them. He brought them tacos. And Dean, we were cracking up together because he said, these are the things he does, and we don't even know he does them. You know, so there's certain things he does that we have no idea until like months later, usually. You know, like if he calls, there's a professional hunting, maybe I already said this before on the podcast, but there's a couple professional hunters he knows and he has their phone numbers, you know, just calls them up, you know, and just, we don't know that for months, you know, that, oh yeah, Conrad called and told me about, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay. So we do find the humor in it, you know, finding the positivity in the diagnosis. But listen, there's many downs, but there's also many upsides. And I think I commend Dean for that, for keeping the humor in it and keeping, I was going to say the marriage alive, but that's a little dramatic. But because I probably do
Too
that.
much credit.
No, just kidding. Yeah, too much credit, Dawn, right. We all know it's me. No, just kidding. I'm joking.
Dean.
But anyway, yeah, I think we balance each other out, and it's a team, just like at your house. Like no one really knows what it takes, but it takes a lot. So, and I needed help too for my in-laws. My in-laws, I'd be lost without them helping because they live here. But the rest of my family lives in St. Louis. But yeah. So
I think, you know, when we talk about that consistency in or the difference in parenting styles, I think it's fine to have different parenting styles, but there has to be some kind of consistency in what, you know, with so many of our children and what they're receiving, you know, the message they're receiving or the instruction,
right?
You know, because that's, you want to have some consistency from, you know, the school, workplace, and, you know, some of those set understandings and understanding of consequences and direction. Because I think that's when the trouble gets. It's not necessarily that you guys come at it, you know, we come at it at different ways, but the end point is in different spots. You know, if we're trying to teach, you know, a skill, or we're trying to teach, you know, emotional regulation or whatever, if that end point is in different spots, that's where you get in trouble. If you can still be yourself and be that, you know, have your own style and the way you approach things, but you got to try to agree or at least be shooting for the same end.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I have a few friends that they hide things from each other, like the parents. Like they don't, you know, you have to be on the same page. You can't go behind your, you know, your husband and do it that, well, I'm just going to do it. And even you have to be on the same team. That's not sending a good message for your marriage, and it's not.
And for your kids, too.
And for your kids, I was just going to say, they have to know. Yeah, I don't know. And I think even if we disagreed, we didn't disagree in front of him either.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there's been a couple times Roger would say something in front of Kelsey when were having a disagreement, and we had to talk afterwards. You know, you can't correct me in front of Kelsey.
Yes.
What are you showing her?
Yes.
You know, I don't know if you guys have had this, but you know, and there was a couple times that, you know, we had to pull each other to the side and say, hey, wait a minute. You know, we were here in the heat of the moment, but when it comes down to it, we need to be on the same freaking page.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we need to show our children that we're on the same page.
That's very important.
And it's not really that case with every marriage.
I know.
I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've heard it, you know, out there that, you know, parents disagree with each other in front of their children.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's proven that's not healthy.
Yeah.
You know,
It is.
at all. But you have to pull them aside, like you said, and talk to them. And, you know, I pulled, my husband and said, don't talk to me like I'm your child in front of our son. This was early on. I'm like, what? Well, you know, you were doing that. I'm like, what? But I think sometimes with men, they're problem solvers. I think they just want to solve it and move on, and the game's on and be done with it. And so, yeah, those things kind of popped up here and there. But I'd say overall, we're a pretty good team. And especially now, since we're getting older, and like you with Michael, the end of your life. It's all you talk about. I mean, we just met with Gabriel White, our attorney, who will be on like another time, but we kind of wrapped that all up finally. And it's like, oh gosh,
The only thing that I would add that has saved our marriage is that Jason has outlets on his own and I have outlets on his own.
Yes, good point.
Yes.
My husband does too.
Because I know Elizabeth was talking about that maybe that's what's going on. I'm not sure, but I know that Jason runs. I mean, if he didn't exercise, and he has like a really good best friend, and Kara and I always Kara's Dwight's wife, and we always talk that they have a bromance going because Dwight knows everything that's going on in our life, just like, maybe he's as close to Jason as I am. I mean, in a different way, but they just are. That's what Jason needs. I may not need that really, really close friend, even though Kara's a very good friend of mine as well. But Jason, I don't know if Jason could get along without Dwight. So, and they have interests like running together and working out and all those things. They've done marathons together, and we also camp as a couple.
Right.
That we have interests that are separate from each other.
I think that's very important.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
think
point.
so too, because I know that there are couples that they do everything together.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything. And they don't have their friends outside of their marriage,
Yeah.
So I have friends that are not friends with my husband, and then he's got his friends, and he does go and do things. Like he'll go on, well, he doesn't now. He's gained a few pounds, but he used to work out, but would go and work out. And
Yeah.
then we also have things that we do together,
Yeah.
and not really right now, but we did.
You do.
We need to come
You
up with some
camp.
new things.
You camp and stuff.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband's
But-
a golfer, so I just he hunts. and
Let him
all
have
that.
his golfing.
Always.
You don't need to go
They
and
need
golf.
their outlets.
Yeah.
But even if we camp, I mean, he's going and hiking big trails, and I'm back out. Kara and I are reading a book. So you can still be together, but have different things that you're interested in.
Right.
And sometimes that's hard when you don't have,
And I think that's, and I definitely know, I mean, that's good advice because that's definitely where he lacks because, he grew up on the West Coast, was a mountain climber, big hunter, big fisher, but when you come back here, can't stand snakes, ticks, or chiggers.
Yes.
And, this is not where he grew up in understanding and how to navigate the terrain, even though we've been here for a long time, it's not his preference. So over the years, slowly, became it,
I see.
and then he, of course, struggles with not, feeling like he can take his sons to do some of those things instead of changing the way he did things. Kind of has missed some opportunities on teaching him, bringing his expectations down on what a hike looks like, versus what it would look like with our sons. And has kind of painted himself into a corner, and I'm the only one there. So that would be something that, with our listeners to really learn from, and watch for that, because I think you hit on it, Tara, that's, he doesn't have outlets, and he said that before, I don't have friends. You are my only friend. I work hard, and I do a lot of solo activities, but I don't. I don't reach out and do those things. So
Right. So he made it seem like there's not an ending.
yes,
You know, 'cause it's stressful with the kids, so that's just a
exactly.
Yeah.
So that would be something. I would just suggest families be very, from that marriage, really be
cognizant.
aware. Yes.
Mhm. You're right. Well, who knows? Maybe we'll have a marriage part 2.
Yeah, we
because there's
might
still
have
plenty
to.
to talk about.
we got
so-
through one question.
Yeah, maybe.
Well,
Well,
no.
actually,
Two.
I
I
did
got
mark
2.
off 2, Tara.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So we have other questions that we will handle. So please look in the future for marriage part 2.
The ongoing marriage series.
I know you're looking forward to it. Thank you for listening, Tara. Where can everybody find us?
Okay, so you can find us on Apple, Spotify, or Navigating Adult Autism. That's where you can listen to our episodes. And then also we have a Facebook and Instagram page Navigating Adult Autism podcast. And you can contact us at moms@navigatingadultautism.com.
There you go.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.